All right, gents, New Year's Eve is about 3 weeks away, and you know what that means. It's time for New Year's resolutions. It's time to whip your ass into shape. It's time to eat healthier. It's time to save money. It's time to grow your bank account. It's time to build on those relationships. It's time to increase your spirituality all at the same time. We're going to change our lives in one drastic swoop. Well, I say fuck New Year's Eve resolutions and do this instead. Welcome, gents. This is the Men's Empowerment Network podcast, episode 2. And we are going to dive into those New Year's resolutions that ultimately always seem to fail. So those New Year's resolutions are just around the corner. And, the traditional ones are, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to tone up my body. I'm going to start saving more money. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to build a stronger relationship with my wife, my girlfriend, my husband, my partner, whatever the case may be. And, ultimately, within, say, a few weeks, you kind of forget about them. You push those New Year's resolutions to the side and you just continue on with life just as you always have. Believe me, I have been through this year after year after year. I set these ultimate big freaking goals and, 2 weeks in, I forget all about it. And I totally let it fall by the wayside. And then I look back in March and I'm like, well, son of a bitch. I didn't do a damn thing that I set out to do this year. So where did these New Year's resolutions come from? I don't know about you, but I love to, if I think of a topic, I want to know a little bit more about it. I want to know where it came from, what the history is behind it. So fun fact, New Year's resolutions actually began about 4,000 years ago with the Babylonians. And ultimately, their New Year's started in March, where they would start to plant seeds for a new growth and then ultimately a new harvest. And they would set New Year's resolutions basically to pay off debts and things like that as a religious response. And, they would pledge to do these resolutions. And it was their thought that if they followed through with these resolutions and ultimately succeeded in them, then the gods would smile upon them and they would have a great harvest. So that's a little useless information about New Year's resolutions. So why is it so impossible to keep a New Year's resolution? We go into the new year with this great intent of, creating positive change in our lives, in being a better person for ourselves and for other people. But ultimately, they fail. And if you're feeling, kind of down about, not being able to follow through with resolutions, please understand that you are not alone. Statistics show that about 91% of men give up on their resolutions, and 23% of that within the first week. And then by the end of January, almost half of all resolutions have either been forgotten or he just said, fuck it. I'll just keep going the way I'm going. So just understand you are not alone. You are not alone in, not being able to live up to your resolutions. So there are a number of different reasons why so many people have a difficult time living up and succeeding at the resolutions. And, I, again, have been a victim of this. I always go into the new year with the greatest of intentions, with the highest of hopes, with these ultimate grandiose, things that are going to revolutionize my life and really catapult my existence into the fourth dimension. And that is a big reason as to why these resolutions continue to fail. ultimately, we go into the new year with this grandiose, this huge life-altering expectation that is ultimately unobtainable, or at least we believe it's unobtainable. So if you are overweight, as I was, and you go into the new year and you want to drop 50 pounds. 50 pounds is a significant amount of weight to drop in a year. That's a lot of weight to come off, and it takes resilience, and it takes dedication, and it takes determination, and it takes consistency, and it takes hard work. And so when you are thinking about these resolutions and you think, all right, I've got to drop 50 pounds. Well, if you've been sedative for most of your life, ultimately 50 pounds seems like an impossible task to accomplish. And so you start beating yourself up even before you start on that journey. If you have the resolution to pay off all of your debt, you know what? By the end of the year, I want all of my debt paid off. And you're sitting on, 20, 30 grand in credit card debt. If you've got student loans that you hadn't paid in years, if you've got, personal loans that you pay the minimum balance on every month, if you've got medical bills and, back taxes and all these other things that compound on top of each other, you know, paying off that debt within a year's time seems like an impossible journey to go on. And so you immediately, again, start beating yourself up, and you turn your ambition into disbelief. And so setting those goals too big to where, it ultimately sets you up for failure will result in exactly that, turning into a failure. And then at the end of the year, when you look back, you're like, well, shit, I'm just a piece of shit. I couldn't hold that promise to myself. I couldn't, move any in a positive direction towards, my health, or to my finances, or to my relationships, or to my spirituality, but you set yourself up for failure from the very beginning. And ultimately, what you need to understand is people don't change overnight, and change doesn't come in such a drastic, revolution. It's a slow, almost monotonous uh, uh, journey. It takes time, and it's step by step by step, one foot in front of the other, and ultimately not realizing the process that you have to go through in order to create a change in your life will ultimately set you up for defeat and failure. And so setting those goals way too big and not understanding the process that every single person has to go through in order to achieve a goal, it will ultimately end in your demise for your resolutions. And so don't don't beat yourself up about this. It's going to take time. It's going to take, consistency. It's going to take, this journey that you have to go on. And ultimately, guys who don't achieve their resolutions generally aren't ready to from the very beginning. We use these sociological expectations to create resolutions, to earn more money, to save more money, to, get into better physical shape, to get into better mental health and things like that. But these a lot of times stem from the social pressures around us to ultimately dictate where we should be heading. It's not a personal resolution, but a sociological one. And those sociological expectations don't really hold fast to our internal being, to our emotional state, to, what moves and drives us on a personal level. And so ultimately using sociological expectations as a resolution will ultimately end up in failure because it's not a personal to you. And ultimately, you're not ready. You're not ready to make that change that you set out to be. And then another key factor in the failure of creating resolutions is ultimately you are afraid of either success or the failure itself. And we all go through this when we set out a goal for, our life, whether it be an ultimate life change or small changes in between. With the fear of success, and I know it sounds strange, but so many guys hold on to this really unconsciously, and they don't even realize that they've got this buried down deep inside. We are human beings and we are a cultural we have a cultural existence. We want to be accepted. We want to be loved by the people around us. And so when we start making positive changes in our lives, then the people who are staying in the mindset, in the physicality that you all were, will ultimately start judging you for the positive changes that you make in your life. As an alcoholic, I have certainly seen this firsthand. When I made the decision to quit drinking, it was quite astonishing how quickly the core group that I hung around with, who were also drinkers, slowly started fading away. They started fading into the background, and we don't even communicate anymore because they saw that I was making positive change in my life. And ultimately, it was a reflection on them. And it was a reflection on, maybe I should make a positive change in my life. Maybe I should, kind of cut back on my drinking. Maybe I should make positive improvements in my health and my mental well-being. But I'm not ready for that. And so I'm going to step back and I'm not going to look in that mirror. I'm just going to, kind of reside in my own little bubble, stay the way I am, and keep going. So I'm not going to associate with Josh because he makes me feel that I need to change my life and I need to, create a positive impact on my own life, but I'm not ready for that. And so I'm going to distance myself. And this whole happens regardless of, the changes that you make in your life. If you are on a journey or want to be on a journey of, getting into better shape, your mindset will start shifting into wanting to eat healthier and into working out, to doing physical activity and things like that. And then if you have surrounded yourself with, fat, overweight dudes who like to sit on the sofa and watch football and eat pizza and eat nachos and, just kind of go to work, come home, plop down on the sofa and not do anything, and you start making those changes, ultimately you will be pushed out of the pack. You will be ostracized because you're no longer in that mentality that they are. And so ultimately you will be shining a mirror in front of their faces and showing them, the disgusting slobs that they become. And they don't want to associate with that. And so they distance themselves. And it can be a very lonely path to make change. Now, as social creatures, ultimately, and our prehistoric brain tells us, no, I need to be in this social group. I have to be a part of this social group. They get me. They understand me. They accept me. So I'm not going to move my life in a positive direction because I need to be accepted. I need to be loved. I need to be, a part of this group. And so ultimately, that fear of success will keep you from achieving your New Year's resolution. And then on the flip side of that, you've got the fear of failure. No one likes to fail. No one likes to, go forth, try something new, and ultimately fall on their face. But if you ask any successful business person, any successful, person of influence, any successful anyone who has any level of success in their life, they will tell you that part of the process is failure. When I was on a journey of my weight loss, of getting into better physical health, uh, I was committed to it. I was very, very committed to it. In that I went on a low carb diet, I started getting more physically active, and I started all these things. But ultimately, there were days where I just didn't fucking feel like it. And so I would have a cheat day and I would have pizza and nachos and just veg out on the sofa. And then I would feel like a failure. Damn, I fucking didn't live up to my expectations. I failed in this journey. And so ultimately, that fear of failure will preemptively keep you from achieving those resolutions. And, that fear of success, that fear of failure is a very strong subconscious thing that you need to bring up to the level and address it head on. Have a plan and ultimately know how you're going to deal with those emotions and with that mental state of the fear of success as well as the fear of failure. So, we've talked about, why these things fail ultimately year after year. We ultimately set ourselves up for failure and we don't follow through. And by the end of the year, we're exactly the same person that we were at the beginning of the year, even though we had these great intentions, these great motivations. Come December 31st, we were rearing and ready to go. And then we fail. And then we just say, fuck it. And then we just say, I'll do it next year. So, what can you, my friend, do to ultimately set yourself up for success in creating these New Year's resolutions? And I started this last year. And I found that over the past year, over the past 12 months, my life has gotten significantly better because of these steps. First and foremost, I took a personal inventory. December 31st, I sat down and I did an inventory of my life over the previous year. I accounted for my successes, everything that I felt proud of, everything that, I wanted to continue on into this past year. That included, my health journey, continuing to eat healthy, eat mainly clean. I do give myself some leniency now that I'm closer to where I want to be. I've continued on my physical fitness journey, lifting weights and things like that. I've seen great improvement over my tonality, the muscle tone, and the strength that I have, which is awesome. And I wanted to continue that. But there were also things in my life that I wanted to take more accountability for. I wanted to put more emphasis and focus on. And so creating that inventory of, where my life was and where I wanted it to be helped me dictate what resolutions were personal to me, what really got my fire going, what really motivated, what inspired me. And I didn't, take these sociological expectations. I need to, be a top model, a top, fucking fitness model, and, beat myself up because I wasn't and may never be. But I utilized what I wanted to look like and I felt empowered to look like and feel like. And that is going to be the driving factor in creating these resolutions. Ultimately, you're going to create a connection between your head and your heart, your mental state and your emotional state. And sometimes this can be really difficult for guys, actually tuning in and getting an emotional connection with the man that you want to be. Now, in doing this, I would highly recommend that you only focus on one aspect of your life and put all of your focus into that one driving, motivating goal. If you're drowning in debt, I would ultimately use that as your motivating factor. And here's the big thing. When you start creating a connection between your mind and your heart, there is nothing that will stand in your way. And ultimately, you will create a reason for wanting to achieve that goal. So as an example, if your goal is to get out of debt, why do you want to do that? First of all, let's get your head and your heart in tune with achieving that goal. And it starts with why. And it can't be a surface level why. Oh, I want to pay off my debt so I can have more financial freedom. I fucking hate that word, financial freedom. It's so overused and so tossed around, and very few people really understand what that means. We see these influencers on TikTok and other social medias about being financially free. But if you look at the background and if you actually look at their life, they have no idea what that means. So fuck that shit. Fuck that surface level bullshit. Financially free. How about this? What pain is that debt causing you in your life? And examine that. What pain is, going to the mailbox and holding your breath, hoping it's not another bill? What pain is it when you look at your wife or your spouse or your partner or your kids and say, no, we can't go on vacation this year because we have too many bills? That is a hard pill to swallow. That is a hard one to do. That's hard. Dig into the pain that is causing you to want to change, because ultimately the pain of not changing has to be more than the pain of staying the same. And I lived that in my childhood. We never went on vacations. We never went to, really fancy dinners. We never had a swimming pool. We never had the luxuries of life that I saw some of my friends have, because we were drowning in debt. And, when we would go to my dad and ask, can we take a vacation this year? Can we get a swimming pool? Can we do this? He had to look at us every single time and say, no, we can't afford that. He was making enough money, but on the back end, and we had no idea at the time, he was drowning in debt. So let that pain be your guide into creating a New Year's resolution. If you're ultimately wanting to lose weight, to get into a better physical and mental health, what is the pain of staying the same? What is that pain telling you? Mine came when I looked in the mirror one day And I did not recognize the person that I had become. I was a literal monster. I was 235 pounds and I'm 5'9". And I literally looked like I had swallowed another human being. It was disgusting to me, because I had allowed myself to get to that point. I had put myself into such a deep depression. I was painfully, you know, uh, uh, mentally unhealthy. And I utilized that depression to, feed, myself with unhealthy foods and with just lying in bed and with alcohol and, all of these other things to take me out of that depression. But one day I looked in the mirror and I did not recognize myself. I did not recognize the man looking back at me. And that pain of of becoming someone who I so despised was enough to start me on the journey of creating a better life for myself. I started focusing on the foods that I was putting into my body. And I was starting to focus on, getting out into nature and taking hikes and, going to the gym and, all of these other elements that came with wanting to improve not only my physical being, but my mental well-being as well. And so that pain, that understanding of on a deep emotional, spiritual, and mental level, what you want to change, what you want to improve on in upcoming year will ultimately be your guiding factor. And then it comes down to creating a measurable goal. And so you can do this with any goal that you want. If your goal is to pay off debt, you are not going to pay off all of your debt all at once. And so create little milestones, create it right before you jump into, starting to pay off that debt. Create a roadmap with measurable goals. So let's say you have 3 credit cards, some medical debt, and, some student loans that you have to pay off. Create milestones along the year for the course of the next year and start focusing on those little goals. Those little goals of getting you closer to that ultimate big goal of being debt free. Start with the smallest credit card. Start with the smallest balance because you'll be able to get that one paid off quicker. And, once you have that one paid off, then you get momentum to step into the next transition, the next goal, the next small goal. If you are on a journey, if you are on a mission to become more physically fit, more healthy, create measurable goals. And my advice to you would not to rely on the scale. I have found that when you rely on a number from a scale that you step on, it can be really inspiring or it can be really detrimental because your weight fluctuates from day to day, from different times of day. Ultimately, when I step on the scale first thing in the morning, that is the lightest that I'm going to be throughout the entire day. Once I have a sip of water, that I've dehydrated myself overnight. And so that is absorbed by my cells. And then, and I've experimented with this, I've stepped on the scale, first thing in the morning before any water or anything. And, I'm one weight. And then, I have a glass of water and then I step on the scale again. And ultimately I'm like 3 pounds heavier. I'm like, what the fuck? I didn't drink that much water, but your cells expand and, and they absorb that water and, your body starts going, your metabolism starts generating up. And, and then again, after I take a shit, it was so weird. I would, I would not weigh myself in the morning until I took a shit because I knew I'd be lighter. And, then I would, I would weigh myself first thing in the morning before taking a drink of water. And then I would weigh myself after taking a drink of water and find out that, I gained 3 pounds with a sip of water. And then I take a shit and I lose like 2 pounds. And so your weight is constantly fluctuating throughout the day. I would not recommend that you base your progress on a number on the scale because it's too variable. There's too many variables. I mean, your mood can affect, that number on the scale. It's really, really crazy. And so I would use a measurable goal that is more that's more tangible. That's more tangible and reliable. So let's say you have, a pair of jeans. You've had these jeans in your drawer for 3 years and you haven't even been able to get your leg into these. You know, uh, I don't know. Some guys may like skinny jeans that don't really look good on me, but whatever. But if you've got a pair of jeans and you can't even get your thigh into, the leg, that could be a measurable goal. By the end of the year, I'm going to fit into these jeans. Now, please understand, you're not going to go from a size 48 to a 32 in a year. Okay? These have to be reasonable, small goals, throughout the year. So make sure it's a measurable, tangible goal and set up little steps along the way. And then if you really, really want to achieve those New Year's resolutions, come up with an accountability system. Your family has to be on board. Your friends have to be on board. They have to be with you. We love to think as dudes that we can go in and charge forward on our own. We got this. We've got the world by the balls. We can accomplish and tackle any challenge. We can overcome all on our own. But it doesn't really work like that. Going back to being social beings, we need that acceptance. We need that backing by other humans. And so whether you're on a journey, a financial journey, a health journey, a relationship journey, spiritual journey, have accountability partners. And that could be your wife, your girlfriend, your husband, your partner, your kids, your friends, and anyone who isn't on the same journey that you are on, or that at least doesn't support the journey that you're on, it might be time to distance yourself from them. Doesn't mean you have to completely cut them out of your life or cut that situation out of your life or cut that whatever out of your life, but that cannot be the center of your focus. Your focus is on you, your personal growth, and the betterment of you, your family, your friends. Go back to that pain point. Always keep that in your heart and at the forefront of your mind, and create and keep people around you who will hold you accountable and support you along the way. And of course, reward yourself. What the fuck is the point of bettering yourself if there's not rewards along the way? And make sure they are rewards that align with your ultimate goal. You don't want to have a goal of, dropping some weight and getting into better physical health by, losing 10 pounds and then rewarding yourself with, an all-you-can-eat burger buffet. That ultimately is a distraction from your ultimate goal and what that will do is it will slip you back into that old mindset and say, oh, you know what? I had that one cheat meal and it didn't really hurt me too bad. So I'm going to do that on a weekly basis. That's not really in alignment with the goal that you're trying to achieve. But, you can ultimately treat yourself to, taking a road trip. When I reach this goal, saving this amount of money or losing this amount of weight, or I've reached this milestone in my relationship, which would be a trip would be a great one for that. If you're trying to repair or mend or strengthen your relationship with your partner, then once you reach a milestone, going on a weekend trip together, how cool would that be? Or a spiritual journey, whatever the case may be, set up a reward system. Reward yourself. This life was meant to be loved, and it was meant to be enjoyed, and it was meant to be filled with passion and excitement and bewilderment at how abundant and how wonderful it is. So enjoy it. And ultimately, if you are on a journey to whatever the case may be, and you are not enjoying it, if it is painstaking to be on that journey, to eat broccoli instead of, a whole pizza, don't do it. Why are you torturing yourself? Again, that goes back to having personal resolutions over sociologically implied resolutions. Enjoy the journey. When I was on my weight loss journey, it took a while before I saw, physically any change in myself. But others saw it in me. Oh, your face is looking thinner. And of course, the first thought that in my mind was, Jesus, my face must have been really fucking fat if that's where you're seeing the weight loss. But it's true. You will tend to see it in the face first and then start seeing it in the body. If you are on a journey of paying off your debt, notice and you will start seeing, the little improvements month after month after month. And, enjoy that process. Go back to that pain point. Go back to that personal reason as to why you're on this journey to begin with. So ultimately, creating positive change in your life is never easy. And it's not going to be easy. But you don't have to have that mindset to begin with. If you go into this journey and have the mindset of, oh, this is going to be so hard. Oh, God, this is going to be painstaking. I know I need to do this. I really, really want to do this, but the change is going to be so hard. You're right. It's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. It's not going to be immediate. It's going to be a process. And ultimately, we need to keep that positive mindset. The reason why we are doing this at the forefront of our mind and in our heart, so that we, on those really tough days, on those days that you just don't want to do it, you do it anyway. You do it anyway, and you feel better for it. There are days that I don't want to go to the fucking gym. If it's raining out, if it's cold out, if it's, whatever, and I have to drive, like 2 miles to get to the gym, I'm like, oh, it'd be so much better to just lay in bed and watch a movie. I don't wanna. But I do it anyway. I do it anyway because, I know that when I do it, I will walk out of that gym and I will feel proud. I will feel motivated to keep going. And I will ultimately know that I have just taken another small step to achieving my goal. to becoming a better man than I was yesterday. And the same thing with my spirituality. I don't want to meditate today. I've got so much shit to do. I got so much shit to do. I don't have time to meditate. And then I do it. It may not be a full, meditation, but I sit down, I focus on my breathing. I'll go through a guided meditation, I'll do a personal meditation, whatever the case may be. And when I'm done, I feel a greater connection to, the universe, to my purpose on this planet, to me as a human being. When I am focused on building new relationships, it's so much easier to lay in bed and watch Netflix than it is to actually go out and meet people. But that's not going to move me forward now, is it? That's not going to get me closer to my goal of creating solid relationships with other people. So getting out there and doing it. And that process of change is slow. It's monotonous. Sometimes it feels like there's no progress at all. But even when you've plateaued and you're pushing yourself a little bit harder, that progress is just around the corner. And it takes time. It takes dedication. It takes commitment. It takes, discipline to create that transformation. And I heard something, I was on TikTok the other day, and I heard something that really struck me. It really kind of hit me on a personal level. And it said that, what did it say? It was such a personal level that I forgot about it, or I forgot it. Discipline is the greatest form of self-love there is, because you put all of those abstract things, those things that don't matter, out of focus, and you put the focus on what you're dedicated to. That was pretty powerful for me. I'm like, wow, how true that is. And it kind of made me realize all of the different things that I allow to come into my life and pull focus from the man I want to become and the goals that I want to achieve and, the life I ultimately want to create for myself. And so discipline is the greatest form of self-love. Very cool. I loved that. So psychologically, there is a process when it comes to change. And the more you understand this, the more equipped you will be in creating and pursuing and achieving those New Year's resolutions in 2024. So first of all, there comes pre-contemplation. And ultimately what that is it's a denial. You're in a state of denial that you really need to do anything to create change or a positive impact in your life. And, I was in this before, I went on my weight loss journey. I would sit on the sofa all day long. I love cake and ice cream. And it's never like a small scoop of ice cream. It's like, 3 or 4 scoops and about a quarter of a cake. So I would just be chowing down, thinking I'm all happy and joyous and free and watching my Netflix and I was in complete denial of, what was going on in my life when I was drowning in debt and unable to pay my bills. I would just lock myself in my room, lay in bed, and again, watch Netflix. Apparently there's a common theme with the devil in my life, Netflix. But I would just shut myself off to the world. Any bills that I got, I'd throw away. I'm like, they'll figure themselves out. When I had a job, I might go, I might not. I was a mess. I was a financial disaster, and I was in denial. I was in absolute denial of where my life was at that moment. And it wasn't until I entered into the contemplation state. And this is where you start making pros and cons about creating change in your life. So mine with a weight loss journey, again, happened when I looked in the mirror. When I really looked in the mirror, deep into my soul, right into the light in my eyes, and I stared deep into who I had become. And it was at that moment that I started thinking about creating change in my life. And I started looking at the pros and the cons of going on a healthier journey. What would that mean? That would mean I can't eat those sugary, salty, delicious, carb-infested snacks that I so loved. Oh God, I loved them. They tasted so good. Oh, they were so amazing. Oh, I loved them. I'd have to give them up. Oh my God. Pro, I wouldn't look in the mirror and feel like a fucking fat slob anymore. I'd look in the mirror and be proud of the dude looking back at me. I'd feel mentally better. I'd feel physically better. I wouldn't be carrying around all this weight and fucking huffing and puffing all the time. Huh. And of course, there are more pros and cons and pros and cons. And you go back and forth and you go back and forth during this contemplation state. With my financial well-being, which, at one point was nothing. It was complete disaster. Again, I mean, funny, whenever I have these revolutions or these kind of mind fucks, I'm looking in a mirror. I was looking in a mirror. I'm like, Joshua, this is not how you want to financially live. Look at yourself. Look at yourself. You are a financial disaster. How did you get here? You know better than this. You made a commitment when you were younger to not become your parents, to be able to afford, nice things in your life, to be able to go on trips, to be able to go and enjoy life. And look at you. You don't have a penny to your name. You're getting evicted. Your car has been repossessed. All these other things because I wasn't keeping up on my financial health, my financial situation. It's like a tornado went through my bank accounts and just dropped a pile of shitty bills on my lawn. It's insane. And so I started weighing out the pros and cons. What would it look like if I actually made positive change? So I wouldn't be able to, get fired from my jobs anymore. Damn. You mean I'd actually have to go to work? Fuck, that's a con. Well, shit. You mean I'd actually have to pay bills? You mean those motherfuckers want my money? What little money I have? Fuck. Damn it. All right. Shit. What'd the pros be? Well, feel more confident. You'd feel more confident if you could actually pay a bill. You'd feel more confident if you actually had something in savings. You'd feel proud to be able to make investments. You'd be ecstatic to actually be able to get out and travel somewhere. Holy shit. Weighing out the pros and cons, pros and cons, pros and cons, contemplation state. And once the pros start, making sense over the cons, then you move into the preparation state. And this is where you actually start mapping out how you're going to make that change. This goes back to setting those small, measurable goals and write them out. There really is a mental connection between your mind, the neurons in your mind, and your fingertips. And when you write something out, don't type it, Don't get on your phone or your tablet or your computer and type out a list of things to do. Actually write it down. Those neurons will start hardwiring and your brain will start processing how you're going to achieve your goal. Because the brain doesn't know what's real or false. But when you pose a question to your brain, it automatically wants to figure out how. How are you going to do this? What's the process? Like a computer, your brain goes through a process. And when you write down that process, you commit it to memory, you commit it to your soul. And ultimately, I mean, really, you're creating a legal contract with yourself. With yourself. I, Joshua Abel, on such and such date, will begin a health journey by taking these steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Signed, Joshua Abel, date, blah, blah, blah. January 1st, blah, blah, blah. Wow. Now, I'm not only emotionally committed, mentally committed, but now I'm legally committed. Ah! Holy shit! I got to do this. I'm legally contracted to myself to make this change. Preparation. And then there's action. Actually taking the steps. And I love, love, love all of these, mental gurus, these manifestation freaks. And don't get me wrong, please do not get me wrong. I practice manifestation techniques on a daily basis. But anyone who says that you can sit in your room and meditate on a life change without doing anything needs to be examined. They need to be committed. They need to be, just shipped away so they don't ultimately harm other people. The universe rewards not only your mental state, but the action behind those commitments. And it's as simple as that. I absolutely believe in the law of attraction. And, but with that, you have to give up something. That could be time, that could be money, that could be energy, that could be, whatever the case may be. Universe isn't just going to give you anything. There has to be an exchange of mental preparedness and action. Got to be action, And so that's the action step. And then comes maintenance. Once you reach that goal, you have to maintain it. When I went on this health journey, I ultimately reached my goal. I got down to my weight, my target weight, and I was physically in a much better place than I was, and so I had to maintain it. I couldn't just resort back to my old mental thinking, my old physical habits, and things like that. Otherwise, I would end up exactly where I was, and so I had to maintain it. Same thing with, paying off the debt example. So many people, so many dudes, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt. They are elated. They feel empowered and motivated and powerful when they get that debt paid off. And then a year after that, they're back in debt because they've allowed their mentality and they've allowed their physical actions to shift back to where they were. And so you've got to keep up with that maintenance of anything. If you buy a car, a brand new, F-150 or whatever, it'll go like 30,000 miles or whatever, and, it'll be running fine. But you're never going to get to 300,000 miles if you're not properly maintaining it. Makes sense. Your life is exactly like that. You have to maintain the changes that you've made in your life in order to keep the results. And so, my friends, I really hope you got value out of this. This revolutionized my 2023 when I actually went through the process of, creating a New Year's resolution and committed to the process based on a personal, emotional, and mental change that I wanted to make in my life. But here's a good thing. The thing is that you don't have to wait until New Year's Eve to create a positive change in your life. Every single moment that you are taking a breath is an opportunity to make a dictation, to make a dedicated exclamation that you are going to change this aspect of your life. You are done being a piece of shit in this area of your life, and you are going to make a change. Every single moment is an opportunity to create a better you. You don't have to wait till New Year's. You can start today if you so choose. If you so choose. No one will be pushing you to make positive change. In fact, chances are most people in your life will want you to stay the same. It has to come from within. It has to come from you. It has to be personal. But you can start today. And my friends, the last thing that I will mention is failure could and will probably be a part of it. Failure is just a part of life, and you have the opportunity to look at that failure as a guy who is either going to step back and say, well, fuck, that didn't work. I guess I just suck at that. I get no point in trying anymore because I failed. Or you could be a man who takes that failure, looks at it, understands what went wrong, and then pivot and make another change to ultimately reach the goals in your life. Guys, I really hope you got value out of this. I was so excited to put this podcast out, and it's been a long time coming, and I honestly I allowed other things to come before and pull focus from what I wanted to achieve, which was this podcast. And so I humbly thank you for being a part of it. And I humbly thank you for listening. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure to share this podcast if you got value out of it. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram, Facebook group, website, All Men's Empowerment Network. To be honest, I do need to be better at social media and whatnot, but one step at a time, right? One step at a time. So, my friends, have an amazing week. Start thinking about those New Year's resolutions, and I can't wait to hear about your success stories. Until next time, my friends, cheers.